How you set up and execute a squat can greatly affect which muscle groups you're engaging and ultimately growing. With the Smith machine squat, you can adjust your form to bias your glutes, your quads, or use a more neutral stance to train both pretty evenly. In this video, we're walking through how to perform a quad-biased Smith machine squat, a great movement for building stronger, more developed quads. For the setup, you're going to adjust the bar height to about your shoulder height or slightly below so you can unrack it comfortably without having to go on the toes. If you're going heavy or training without a spotter, set the safety stops just below your deepest squat depth to catch the bar in case you fail a rep and keep yourself safe. Grip the bar with your hands about equal distance apart using the knurling or the notches and rings to help guide an even hand placement. Pull yourself underneath the bar so it rests on your upper traps, then bring your rib cage down to stack it over your pelvis. This neutral torso position allows for proper bracing and reduces lower back strain. Notice the difference between an overextended spine where the ribs flare up and the pelvis tilts forward, and a stacked neutral posture with the core engaged. The neutral position helps you maintain control throughout the entire squat and reduces the chance of compensation patterns like butt wink at the bottom. The butt wink is a movement of the lower spine or the lumbar spine, and in squat movements, we're really trying to move the knee, the hip, the ankle, and not really the spine. We want to try and keep the spine like a long lever that we are attempting to keep pretty rigid, so that way we can load the muscles of the knee, the hip, and not so much of the spine. And it doesn't mean that if your spine moves slightly or you have some degree of butt wink that your spine's gonna explode. But generally, we want to try and keep it more stable than not. Your feet should be roughly shoulder width apart, not too wide, and the toes can point forward or slightly out depending on what allows you to reach full depth with good knee tracking. To initiate the movement, we're going to start by breaking at the hips and the knees at the same time, but we're really focusing on letting those knees travel forward. This forward knee travel is what increases knee flexion or bend, and really what creates the quad bias. So be sure to focus on the cue of driving the knees far over the toes. Your goal is to let the knees travel as far forward as you can without compensation like your heels lifting off the ground or your pelvis tucking under. The next cue that you really want to focus on is to really keep your torso as upright as possible with your shoulders pulled back and wide while looking forward. If you're new to this movement or you struggle to get depth with a vertical torso, your ankle flexibility may be a limiting factor. So you want to work within your active range of motion, so drive the knees forward only as far as you can without pain, instability, or compensation like the heels lifting or the knees caving in. If you're struggling with this movement, of course, take a video and submit it for form check just to make sure your setup and execution is correct. Now, if you know you have limited ankle mobility, you can use squat shoes with an elevated heel, or simply place heel wedges or plates under the heels to allow your knees to travel forward more while still maintaining contact with the ground. You can also include ankle mobility drills in your warm-up to improve long-term squat mechanics. If your hips shoot too far back where your chest leans forward, you're going to lose the quad focus, so really trying to stay tall and upright. You want your foot pressure centered over the midfoot with the big toe, pinky toe, and heel evenly grounded, like a triangle. And the bar should stay directly over your midfoot the entire range of motion. As you lower into the squat, inhale to brace while avoiding rib flare. Exhale as you push through the midfoot and the big toe, keeping tension in your quads the entire time. Some notes on structure. Shorter individuals, or those with shorter femurs and longer torsos, often find it easier to stay more upright and in a quad-dominant movement pattern, whereas tall lifters, or those with long femurs and shorter torsos, like myself, generally tend to have a harder time staying in that more upright and vertical position. So you could potentially benefit from something like an elevated heel shoe, a heel wedge standing on the top of those plates, or maybe even using a safety squat bar if available. Some common issues in form to watch out for. One would be the butt wink. If your lower back rounds at the bottom, try adjusting your stance or choosing a different squat variation that better fits your structure, and work with me, your coach, on correcting that. The hip shift. So if one hip is shifting from side to side, especially during the ascent, it might be due to some either like limited ankle mobility or maybe some imbalances in your hip rotation. So we could test some ankle dorsiflexion or some hip rotation from side to side to assess any asymmetry. This quad biased variation leverages the Smith machine's built-in stability to help you focus on controlled knee travel, upright posture, and effective quad loading, making it a great exercise for quad training.